Yeah. So like you hear the expression, like do things that fill your cup up, and so you kind of think like, oh, you got to do things that, that are exciting and adventurous and, that light you up. But from what I found is that, yes, that is true, but you've also got to find stuff that fills your cup up, which means like recovery, which might mean doing nothing. You know what I mean? Yeah, because I've found the more I do, the more it actually drains my energy cup. Not as in the fulfillment cup, but it's more like my energy cup and
Yes.
and kind of emotional state.
Yeah. No, I totally resonate with that one. And it's what I see with that as well is being able to be in that space and knowing that your elastic band of that lack of giving to yourself and lack of filling your own cup up, knowing that you're stretching the edges of your ability to give and things like that, and being okay with that for a period of time, knowing that you've got something coming up. Like I was just saying then, I'm currently here in Sydney at the moment, have been in Dubbo for the last 2 months, and I'm been working on a lot of work with clients and that side of things in the last few months, more from my video and photography business side of things. And for those who are listening, my name is Brett Williams. How are we all doing? And
yeah, welcome to the show, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. We kind of got into the conversation a little bit different than maybe you normally do. So
yeah, that's right. Well, it's not like, sorry to butt in, but I was thinking about that and I was like, I've been starting these things with like a heavy, like in a heavy regimented way. And then I was like, you know what? I kind of feel like just mixing it up a bit and then
perfect.
just press and record, seeing what happens. And then, yeah, I guess you just introduce you whenever it feels right.
Yeah. And that's perfect. I'm happy to roll with it.
Yes.
And so like we're saying here on topic with not filling your cup up or filling your cup up, I've got 2 weeks left in Sydney before I head back to Bali. And I know that I've got that Bali thing. And probably the first couple of days I will be just solely focused on filling my own cup up, because right now I'm feeling drained. I'm giving all that I can to my clients, saying yes to projects that are stretching me a little bit. And I've got more on my plate than what I probably think that I can do. And I was even just thinking before we got on this call, with one of my first comments to yourself before we started recording being, I feel like I'm not getting enough done. I partly feel as though there's going to be a few sleepless nights just to get some traction on some of this. But I think it's key to know that you've got something that you're working towards, or something down the line, whether it's tomorrow, whether it's next week, whether it's next month, that is your sole purpose of that is for filling your cup. I think for that, it helps to be a little bit more stressed in some of those other times.
Yeah, for sure. So for anybody that's listening, Brett is basically a life coach, and he mainly helps women. You know what? How about you introduce yourself, Brett?
More than happy to. I'm a man of many talents.
You are. You are.
I have the coaching business, which is the main focus for that is working with women, helping women heal past relationship trauma and step into their true self. That's under one of the brands, Life with Options. And then the other one, which hasn't quite got off the ground yet, is there to support the men through Conscious Brothers, which will be guiding and supporting men to be more in tune with their emotions and self and all of that. So that part hasn't been as focused. So that, yes, that's the sole work that I do. And the other work that I was talking about just before being photography, videography, websites, marketing, a little bit of branding, all of this sort of stuff, which is becoming a bit more of my focus right now. And it's something that I enjoy. It's something that allows me to sit in my creative, childlike flow and just enjoy it. And I think it's also key to have that balance. And, staying on topic at the moment for what we were saying about having that filling your own cup, I remember listening to somebody speaking about a relationship that they had been in, and when they had broken up, he had asked her like what went wrong, basically. And what the feedback was that she gave him was, when we got together, I saw that you were so aspirational towards your business, and it was really inspiring and it was really attractive and everything like that. But then we were together for so long and I realized that's all you were. And that's something that really sat with me a year or two ago. And this is when I really started to look into becoming more multi-dimensional with different interests, hobbies, on that sort. And I feel that through work, we can also have an element of filling our own cup up. So for me, as I said, the coaching is very emotional heavy. It's very energetic heavy. It's very much supporting people through their challenges. And so when I started to do the photography and videography, that allows me to be more childlike, and it's less serious, it's more fun. To me, the balance between the two also can fill the cup up as well.
Okay. That's interesting. Hey, so it's like play, right? So when you kind of mean, like, when you say childlike, that's kind of bringing out that inner play.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. For some, it might be, I don't know, dancing or artistic creativity, or like, drawing or whatever it might be, or, something that just you enjoy. And for me, whenever I'm doing a photo shoot, it's never so much me getting tired of shooting the photos. It's more the model getting tired of me shooting the photos, because I'm always, I'd be walking down and I'd be like, oh, I like that. Here, stand here.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. So like, what made you get into helping women? Because, like, sitting back, this is just my thought. I'm not saying, and it's not, and it's obviously not in any way true, but like, I would have thought maybe that women would have been more comfortable with women being, or, like being coached by another woman. So like, how did you get into coaching females? And how did you, like, how was it, actually being that person for that woman?
Well, I wanted to work with men solely and specifically when I chose to step into the space intentionally. And when I started to, and again, that was what the Conscious Brothers will become. I wanted to support men in, if they were highly emotional men, to be able to become more in tune with their emotions and find strength within it. Or if they were lacking emotion, to be able to connect with their emotions and find strength in that as well. But yet when I stepped into the space, I was putting out a lot of content, and we've had these conversations before. I know myself to be a softer type of male. I'm not, I'm not the most masculine guy, but I'm not a feminine guy. I sit very much in between, and I know myself to be able to dance in between both spaces.
Yeah.
And one thing that I am is I'm also quite an emotional guy, as much as I've suppressed that over the years and things like that, and grown up with the conversations that many men have had of, emotions are weak. But yet fast tracking that, I was so fixated on working with men that I didn't see how many women were coming to me. And it was only until I met with a guy who really ran me through from a marketing perspective. And he's like, look, you need to look at the audience that's coming there. And I needed to do some own self-worth and self-work around the idea of being a woman's coach. Because the question that you asked is actually the same question that I asked myself, and also question that I asked female friends of mine. If I was to step into this, do you think that it would be weird or anything along those lines? And some of the feedback that I had from some of the women that I spoke to was that if women are going to a doctor, namely a gynecologist, a lot of them are men. So there's not a weirdness when it comes to, yes, there are a lot of females out there as well that are gynecologists, but there is also a lot of men who are in these medical specialist roles. So for women to seek support in a man is not completely weird. But of course, I also needed to prove myself in some aspects. And I do that through my content, through my knowledge, through my self-awareness, and my ability to be able to language what's going on. But for me also, when I stepped into the space and actually decided, okay, I'm going to be a woman's coach, I actually didn't realize how deep the why behind being a woman's coach ran. And it actually stems back to my mum. It stems back to witnessing my parents' relationship dynamic when I was younger and seeing the impact that my father's negative derogatory comments had on my mum, and really wanting to basically support and help my mum. And I think I believe I stepped in on many of their fights and arguments and things like this. And for me, it was a case of my mum's such an angel. She'd do anything for anybody, but she's so lost in her own self. She lacks the confidence. She lacks self-love. She lacks a lot of things, but she's doing the best that she can for what she's got. And so for me, I saw that. And I also saw how deep that ran with other interactions. But I also, and this is probably what's more tangible for many, is I also went looking for the evidence in my own life that said that I can do this. Because for me, it was still daunting, even though I had more women coming to me than I had men. I actually looked back through all of the conversations that I've had with female friends, or rather friends, and realized that they were mainly with females. And then I realized the context of those conversations. And the context of those conversations were very similar to, less structured, but very similar to the conversations that I'd have now through the coaching space, and being able to really support and empower them. So for me, I see being a woman's coach as twofold. One is helping women break out of the chains of the social conditionings and projections that has been placed upon them by childhood, past relationships, society, all of this, so that they can stand strong and true within themselves. But also for many of the women that I work with is also showing them a different type of male, and showing them that there are men out there that are not like the shallow, selfish, egotistical men that they might have once known. So I do see my work in that space as very twofold.
Man, that's so interesting that you say that about your mum, and yeah, like it all coming about and connecting with females more because of your mum. And because I really resonate with that as well. And yeah, yeah, I'm quite myself, like I get pretty G'd up about the whole male, masculinity thing, and toxic masculinity and all that kind of stuff. But if I hear about a female being treated badly, or a male dominant industry, and then a female comes in, how they kind of say stuff and like put down a female, that really like fires me up, right? Really, really fires me up. And like the people that I spend most time with, they would 100% agree with that, because when somebody says something, I'll be instantly like, dude, that's fucked. You can't say that, or, oh my God, I can't believe that person said that to you, And when you were explaining that about your mum, it actually hit a bit of a nerve for me and got me a bit teary, because it took me back to my mum, and when my parents split up, and how she didn't have the tools, and maybe she was a little bit not weak, but she just didn't have the tools to survive, So she was she was in a bad place, and she was a mess and all that kind of stuff. And I think that kind of that's why I feel so fired up when women are put down or treated less than or whatever. So yeah, very interesting.
Yeah.
What?
And I,
Yeah, sorry, you go.
I'll just cap off that is I always say that it's not a case of women are weaker or anything like that. And I know that's not what you're saying.
Mm,
Um, but I agree, like I resonate with that as well, as far as like one of the things that gets under my skin the most is seeing a male disrespecting a female.
yeah.
And from my experience, too many women take that on as being something about them, or you know, trying to see the good even and ignore the what's in front of them. So part of my work is really about just shifting the perspective and bringing the power back to them. So yeah.
Yeah, cool, man. So what what's kind of the biggest thing that you find when working with women that they struggle with?
The first thing that came to mind when you just said that was understanding men.
Okay.
And I'm not too sure why that came to mind, but there's definitely examples and reasonings that I can validate with that.
Yeah.
You know, that, you know, why has he said that, or why has he not said this, or he doesn't help out, or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
There's no doubt that the world and dynamics of men and women has shifted. With especially the uprise of the, you know, the boss woman and the independent woman and all of this sort of thing. And there's definitely now I see a need for men to really escalate and speed up their own self-growth to be able to match in vibration side of things. But I see that, I say it a couple of times to some of the women that I work with, is that if he's happy sitting on the couch doing nothing and watching the football, and you're the one that's agitated, well, it's not him that has the problem. And so for me, what I see in there is the being able to honor the relationship and being able to, not feed the relationship, it's the wrong word that I'm looking for, but being able to invite him to help you with things, even though that you can do them yourself.
Okay.
Is one of the things that I see happening a lot, and men then feeling demasculated because they're like, well, I don't need to, what's my value here in this relationship as a man? Because, well, you're going to do all of the things that a man would otherwise do. And so then a man will start to sit back a lot more and not actually step up as much as women want them to step up. But men are not aware enough, or they're just too, I guess, logical in the sense of, well, you know, I go and help and then I get told off. Why should I go and help the next time, type thing? So I see like the ability to understand a man is part of what's going on with women. And obviously men are we're not that complex, but one of the things that we do is, if we've been hurt or burnt by a question that's been asked or anything like that, the next time that same question is asked, well, a man will generally give the answer that he feels that she wants. So for women, it's about being able to give the man the space to be able to express himself and then not react to his truth, but yet curiously walk through that with him as well, so that you can find out why it is that he's feeling that way, so that he feels safe to be able to express himself. Because otherwise it's just going to be a destructive process to the relationship.
Yeah. So do you think that, you know, there's actually a couple of factors that play into that? Because I was just trying to think of some situations that happened in my life, and like I was seeing this chick, and she's like, like, what wine do you want to get? I was like, I usually walk in and I look at the label, and, you know, I look at it and I go, oh, that's a nice label, and I grab it. And then, so she's like, oh, like I kind of look at all the wines and everything. So we're in there for about 20 minutes looking at all these wines. And then we kind of narrowed down to two. And then she was like, all right, which one do you want to pick? And I was like, I'll pick that one because it's got a nice label. And then she's like, oh, you're lucky you picked that one, because if you had to pick the other one, I would have grabbed the other one and said, no, you can't have that. So then I was thinking, like, if that actually played out like that, and then the next time we went in to go get the wine and she asked me the same question, I'd probably just be like, you just pick. Because, I can't be fucked picking something and then you saying, no, we're not getting that anyway. So there's kind of like there's a part to play from the woman, and then a part to play from the man.
Absolutely. And that's a perfect example of how that plays out.
So,
and having that awareness that next time you would just tell her what she wanted to hear.
Yeah. So is it also coaching women in actually seeing that side of them and making them more aware that sometimes that they might be playing a part in the role or in the situation? Yeah.
Absolutely. So there's a program that I've got, and it's very hard hitting out of the gates. And I think it's about week 3 that we start talking about like being a victim, being that victim mentality, and how that is being fueled by an unspoken story that's going on in your life. And for many women, there is that one around, love and attention and connection. And I guess really for all of us is that aspect. Men tend to just be numb to it. They don't really react to it that much. But I guess for women, they tend to be still a lot more emotionally connected to it. So basically what I've seen, it's like, well, if they say something, then it means something about me. And that's probably one of the biggest things that I do say in language when I'm working with women is it's not about you. And really being able to see where the other person's comment and perspective is coming from, and that it has more to do with them and less to do with the woman. And that's something that I find that women struggle with the most, with being able to detach the emotions of what he has just said, or how he's expressed his opinion, or it could even be a friend, how that's not actually anything to do with yourself. But when we can all understand that we all see the world through our own filters, and depending on what's happened or taken place, we're reacting from our own filters, then you can start to be more okay with, having somebody's comment come back to you and not actually be reacting to it. So that's probably one of the biggest things that I see in there as well, is just being able to be emotionally in tune and aware, knowing that it's not anything directly related to yourself, but then curiously exploring it with yourself and also with the other person, if that's a possibility.
Would you be able to like give a bit of an example of how that would play out, just for any visual learners out there listening to this? Because I'm a visual learner. So to get my head around some things, I need to hear a bit of a story.
Perfect. So a good example of that is, say, the woman has asked the man to take out the rubbish, and he doesn't take out the rubbish. The woman then makes the decision in her own mind that him not taking out the rubbish is, he doesn't love her, he doesn't respect her, he doesn't value her, whatever it might be, something along those lines. And to a degree, it's really, what I've seen is that women struggle with actually getting beyond the fact that what was going on for him in that moment. Like what was going on for, in his day, what else was he dealing with? But just because he didn't actually take it out, therefore it has to mean something about me. Has to mean that he doesn't love me. It has to mean this. And look, there might be an element of that, and I'm not just stepping over that, but really being able to see it from a different perspective. Because if you're constantly saying that these things that are happening outside of yourself mean something about you, and if it's always going to be meaning that you're not valued, you're not loved, you're not, good enough, or whatever it might be, then you're giving your power away to the situations. So instead, if you could just look at it from a point of, okay, he didn't take out the rubbish. Yes, you can still be angry at him. You could still be annoyed at him. You can still be all of those things. But instead of it being what takes your power, you hold on to your power and you ask him, hey, when I asked you to take out the rubbish the other day, you didn't, and I just want to know what was going on. And not doing it in an attacking way. So being able to come from a space that is centered and grounded rather than emotionally reactive to saying, why didn't you? I can't believe you didn't do it last time. That's not going to help anything. Because something else that I'll say from time to time is that women who there's two types of men. There's the man who is more than happy to sit on the couch and basically be a burden to the woman. And then there's men who are so aware that if they're not being treated with respect and valued, then they will leave. And so it's, how do you want your relationship to be? Being able to really see what's going on for the other person and be able to language it in a way that is more conducive to a conversation than an argument, or inviting them in and saying, hey, can you help me with taking the rubbish out, instead of him just sitting on the couch because you're going to take it out anyway, or whatever it might be. Then allowing that to be, part of the relationship as well. So yeah, knowing that not everything's about you is probably the big thing.
Do you find that is actually selfish? That people make things about them, even though it's not?
Great question. It's definitely not a conscious thing. It's definitely coming back from something in the past where there was a decision that was made that it did mean something about you. And this same situation or similar situation, he's just bringing that up. Is it selfish? It's definitely not, supportive. It definitely doesn't necessarily serve you to be that way. But I think at times, no, I think it's just more of a case of just that feedback of going, well, there's something that's going on that you need to look at.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily think that it's selfish, but I definitely think that people can be selfish as a result if they're not aware of it.
Okay.
Because it can be a form of manipulation.
Yeah.
Because if this then means something about me, well, then I will manipulate it so that you then give me love and attention. So you didn't take out the rubbish. It means something about me. Therefore, I'm going to attack, and you're going to then feel bad and guilty. And then you're going to give me the love and attention that I actually desire. So I think from that way, it's a selfish act because it's coming from an unhealthy form of connection and love and attention.
Yeah. Sweet. So we've spoken a bit about kind of things that happen in the relationship in that way when they're actually in a relationship. But what about when they're out of a relationship? What kind of things do you sort of deal with most with women that have, is it they're coming just out of a relationship, or they're finding it hard to get into a relationship because they're currently single?
It's so diverse. Some of my clients have been wanting to leave their relationships. I've had some clients who have sent me celebratory comments when their divorce papers have come through.
Oh yeah.
Or I've had others who are, I think a lot of them tend to be in relationships and are just really unhappy with the current relationship. And I need to put a disclaimer in here. I don't tell anybody to leave a relationship. One client that comes to mind, I've challenged her decisions on multiple occasions, but not given her any of my own opinions. It's a case of, well, what do you want? No, I don't want to be with him. Okay. And then I'll language it in a different way. No, I don't want to be with him long term.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, cool. Well, now we got to work more on yourself to build up your own self-esteem because of the environment that you've been in, and put a plan in place. But even then, I will still come back and challenge and be like, well, what do you want? No, I don't want to be in this relationship. Okay, well then we need to work or create a way around that. So I'm definitely not in the business of breaking up relationships, but when I use the term and title of women's relationship coach, I'm talking about the relationship with self.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about intimate relationships. And the women who are not in relationships that I work with generally have a low self-esteem, generally have low self-confidence. And a lot of that has come from past relationships where they've been told that they're not good enough. They've been kind of left on the sidelines at most occasions, and they just feel like they're worthless and not worthy of a quality relationship. So for them, I'm working with them to really transform a lot of the past stories that are standing in their own way. And there's those who are, wanting to get back into the dating world and everything like that as well. And, really my focus there is less about preparing them for going on dates, or, I'm not somebody who teaches the game strategies or any of this garbage that's like, send these text messages and you'll get an instant, message back. I think that's just all a form of manipulation that's not going to build a quality relationship.
Yeah.
For me, the focus is really about, let's build the best relationship that you have with yourself. And in a process, we'll elevate your, confidence, self-worth, your vibration, and ultimately you may find somebody who is at a match to that. But the first thing is let's make sure that you are comfortable and okay within yourself, by yourself, because that deadly trap, and I say deadly in a very loose term, of not being able to be by yourself because the silence is just too frightening, or just, all of that side of things. No, we need to start making peace with all of those so that you can actually have a healthy relationship. And that, to a degree, is also the same when it comes to women who are in a relationship. It's really just focusing on building their self-worth, and then they may choose either way. And I occasionally work with couples as well, those men who are ready to step up to the plate. So it's not like I'm just, as I said, breaking relationships up, because it's the last thing that I want to do. But it's really about just finding what aligns to my client and working with them on that, whilst building up their own self-confidence and self-worth.
Yeah.
And a lot of the things that I see with couples in relationships that really start to become the what breaks the relationship down is unspoken expectations. The man has an unspoken expectation that the woman has to be a certain way, and the woman has an unspoken expectation that the man has to do something. And when those unspoken expectations don't get met, each party becomes resentful towards the other party, but they themselves don't necessarily know that they have this unspoken expectation on the other party. So it just becomes, this weird thing of all of a sudden we're fighting. And so when I'm working with couples, it's really about, that's where I start peeling the layers back. Let's see what expectations that you have set that you're not actually languaged. And for some that are in long-term relationships, it's a case of, you should know me better because we've been together for so long. You should know I don't like that. You should know this. Generally, those are the sorts of things. And so when we can really start to language this and put it out in the open, then we can really start to peel back the layers and understand what's really going on within the relationship that is causing the relationship to become disruptive and destructive in the way that it is. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy, that unspoken expectation, right? It's like, all right, so instead of me talking to him about, or talking to her about, this is how I'm feeling at the moment, feeling a little bit disconnected from my partner, blah, blah. I'm just going to act in a way that tries to get them to realize what they're doing wrong, or, not doing it all, kind of thing. Yeah. It was really crazy. my ex fiance, when we split up, like basically at the end of the day, she basically said, you know, like, why? Because I was working in Western Australia and she was living in Victoria, and she's like, I felt alone, so I thought I may as well just be completely alone, right?
Yeah.
And then like, and I'm only going to share this not in a shaming way, because she only knew what she knew and how to
Yep.
deal with things the way that she knew how to deal with things, and that was the same with me. So, but basically, I had asked her on multiple occasions if everything's okay, is she missing me, blah blah blah, and she made funny joke, you know, oh no, I really like it when you're away because I get the whole bed to myself, right?
Mm.
And then, and you know, and I'd get answers like, yeah, I'm doing fine, it's fine, right? But then when she said that about being alone, so she thought she may as well be completely alone, I was like, what do you mean? I've been asking you this whole time about if you're okay, and you said yes, 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 yes. And her reply was, well, you should have known by the change in my actions, because
Mm.
obviously things, as the relationship was ending, things started to change, you know, like, um, there wasn't as much sex, you know, like
Yep.
she would talk to me in certain ways, she would ignore me, blah blah blah, right? So her thing was like, yeah, you should have known by the change in my attitude, you know. And I was like, what do you mean? And she's like, well, you should have just been able to tell. And I was like, well, hang on, I used to ask you, is everything
Yeah.
okay, right? um and I was like, you know, if I'm gonna wake up in the morning and ask you, hey, how you doing, and you say good, I'm not going to turn around to you and say, no, you're not. You're lying. You're actually shit. Right? So,
So true.
yeah, it's just interesting. And I mean, I've probably been guilty of it as well.
Yeah.
Well, no, definitely guilty of it, you know, not wanting to share a truth or be completely vulnerable
Mm.
because, you know, like the male stigma of it being weak, to
Yep.
share, you know, oh, when you did that, that actually really didn't feel good, you know?
Mm.
So yeah, very, very interesting stuff.
Yes, absolutely.
So there was something you were chatting about the other day, and it was about being in alignment basically, and kind of, you were talking about your photography,
Yep.
and you were kind of resisting putting
Oh,
yourself out
yes.
there and all that kind of stuff.
Yep. Um, so for me, that was in around the idea of identity.
Yeah.
Um, and identity is something that can be very limiting. Um, because for me, I wanted to just solely be focusing on the coaching. And I'll be transparent, the coaching didn't quite go financially in the direction that I was uh, anticipating it to. And for me now, looking back, I go, well, that's just feedback that I just didn't have the right structures, and have now come up with a new game plan to be able to create it in a different way. But one of the things that I was looking at there was a case of um, the photography was something that I picked up kind of as an escape from some of the coaching side of things, with the seriousness of it and a few of the other bits. Um, but yet, whilst the photography was gathering momentum very organically and word of mouth, um, I was still resisting it because of the perception that I had in my head as to what that meant to be a quote unquote a photographer. Um, and so I find and feel that we do this a lot in life. And yes, it comes back to partly our ego that is just trying to keep us safe and things like that. But we do need to really check in with ourselves and go, well, what is the actual cold hard facts here in front of us? You know, is this something that's currently serving, yes or no? And you know, for me, yeah, photography and now videography is something that serves me in multiple ways. It brings in some cash flow, and it also gives me an escape from some of the seriousness of some of my clients that I work with. And being okay with that and being able to explore photography and create my own meaning of it and what that looks like. Because when I really started to see the other side of it, of what photography can bring me outside of the finances, you know, I'm working with some amazing people and I'm getting access to rooms that other people are paying for, and, you know, content that other people are paying for and things like that, all because I bring value as a photographer or videographer to that person. And in many cases, and if not most of the cases, I'm in those rooms getting paid to be in those rooms rather than paying to be in those rooms. So, you know, being able to really see it in a different way and see the gratitude within what it brings for me is something that really started to shift the egotistical identity that I had around the resistance of actually, I guess, utilizing that title of saying, yeah, I'm a photographer. And coming back to like what I was saying before, the example of being multidimensional and not just being one thing. Because there's another conversation that goes along that as well, is that if you want to be successful in this life, you've got to focus on one thing. And that was the other part that was underlying the identity aspect for myself when it came to the photography. It's like, one, I also know myself not to be, I've never had just one thing. I've always had multiple things. Even when I was working a job, I would still have stuff that I was doing on the side, events or something else. Because I like that diversity of being able to go from one thing to the other and move it all forward. And, you know, I like change. So that was the other conversation that was going on under my head. It's like, well, what's the opportunity cost of actually doing the photography, doing the videography, and what's that going to impact the vision with the coaching? And until I can see how they actually all link together, I was resisting it.
Yeah. I went through a similar thing, man. And it's funny how it's that identity. Like, you know, I told a lot of people that I was starting this, you know, adventure travel company and blah, 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 blah. And I'm doing this and we're going to do this. And then like some things weren't aligning for me, and that's okay. But I kept, so what happened was I felt out of alignment, not wasn't feeling unmotivated. I was just feeling more out of alignment kind of towards that, the way that the company was going to be set up. And basically, yeah, like I kept pushing myself because I had this identity. I was pushing myself to keep doing it and keep setting it up and blah, blah, blah. But it was making me extremely anxious. And yeah, like a little bit, I guess, depressed because it was out of alignment. And I was just pushing well, I've said I'm doing this, so I need to be that guy that says if he does something, he's going to follow through with it. Right. Yeah. And it was just something, it was basically, we were going through it at the same time. It was crazy. So if anybody listening, Brett and I actually met in Bali. We spent probably, I don't know, 4 months sitting at the same table together every morning.
Absolutely. I can't wait to be back there and sitting in my spot.
Crate Cafe, same spot. Brett even used to take the pillow home and wash it because it was only his ass that sat on it.
Just about.
Yeah. Actually, no, they took the pillows away because they couldn't afford to wash them. Yeah. So if anybody's out there and they're struggling with, I guess, staying put in their life, and they want to move forward, but they're not sure how to do it, what would be your greatest piece of advice?
Mine would be to not actually tell anybody what it is that you want to do, but start doing what it is that you want to do. And when you have actually built up the confidence of what you're doing, then talk about it.
Yeah.
And I've experienced that in my own life with past things. There was times when I was declaring that I was going to do things and it never ended up eventuated and things like that. And that just takes a hit to the personal self-worth and value and all of that. And more so these days, like I barely tell anybody what it is that I'm planning to do until it's already wheels are in motion.
Yeah.
I tell them what I'm doing rather than what I'm going to.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really key thing because in society, it would be nice to think that everybody's going to support you, but the you know, definitely in Australia with the tall poppy syndrome and everything like that, and I'm no doubt that happens all around the world with, you know, those who are feeling inadequate and insecure within themselves are only going to try and pull you back down because it helps them to feel worthy in themselves. So do the hard work in the shadows of the day, and you know, let the results shine through. I think about from my own journey of the last 4 or 5 years, isolating myself, just focusing in, learning, growing, taking a step, learning, growing, taking another step, learning, growing, to just one foot in front of the other.
That's a really amazing piece of advice. Yeah, very good, mate. So I want to ask you three finishing questions.
All right.
So do you currently have a morning routine?
Right now, I'm going to say no. The last 2 months living with my mate, his wife, and his 4 kids in a very small house has been a little bit challenging when it comes to a morning routine. And I'm looking forward to getting back to my morning routine when I get back to Bali.
And what does that morning routine look like?
Getting up at 5:30 in the morning, jumping on the scooter, heading down to Crate Cafe where it's, you know, sun's just rising, grabbing a coffee, getting my journal out and doing some journaling, doing some creation of content, planning the day, and really just connecting into myself. You know, that's what starts the best.
And what you don't have to give us the exact things that you write in your journal, but what
I got some pretty whack things that go into my journal, that's for sure.
Yeah. What kind of things do you write down in there?
So for me, I've got, I guess, a couple of different journaling styles depending on what's going on. So one of it might be like a self-analyzing journal process where I'm just like, I might write a question that's bothering me at the top of the page, and I'll just start basically brainstorming around that. Like, you know, what's my belief around, you know, I don't know, money, success, whatever it is, things that I'm wanting to achieve and the ways that I'm wanting to grow myself and my businesses. And if those results aren't showing through, I'll start doing that just to bring more conscious awareness to myself. So that's probably one process. The other process is kind of like a free writing experience where I just start writing whatever the words there and I don't judge them. Sometimes there's some extremely weird and wacky things that get written down there that even to me don't make sense when I read them back. But in the moment, I just feel like these are the words that are to be put on the page. And sometimes for that, it's just like a releasing process of moving through some energy stuff that's there for myself, or maybe some mental clutter or something like that, so that I can actually then connect back to myself so that I can get back on the horse and, you know, start moving forward again in business.
Nice. Are you currently, this is the second question.
All right.
Are you currently reading a book?
Not currently. There's a few books that have been calling me to read them again.
Oh yeah.
Just to brush up on, but not currently.
All right. So off the top of your head, what's the best thing you've gotten out of a book, I guess, It doesn't matter when it was. The thing off the top of your head, and what was the book called?
So The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks is all about upper limiting and self-sabotaging. So for me, what I got out of that book, and I've read that one multiple times, is because of the visual examples that he uses in the book, being able to see how my own self-sabotaging shows up in my own life. And the idea of self-sabotaging, of when things are going good, all of a sudden you bring it back down to a level that you're unconsciously comfortable with. And that's probably been one of the most impactful books from an awareness perspective. Now, that doesn't mean that I've cured myself of self-sabotaging, because I sure as heck do it still, but I'm able to catch it quicker and quicker, so that hopefully in the moment I can catch myself and go, no, this is me sabotaging my success. I need to go this way.
Yeah. That's cool how you say you catch it quicker, because I kind of feel like, you know, all these little things that we have going on, you know, like self-sabotage and limiting beliefs and negative self-talk, I kind of feel like they never go away. Like they're still there, but we catch it quicker, and we've learned how to flip the script.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, you hear, you know, like fucking people say, control your thoughts and, you know, stop negative self-talk. And I do believe to an extent that, like, sort of the more gratitude you have and everything and more positive mindset, then like it does, like you do think more positively, but there is definitely some negative self-talk that still comes up. And I think if you didn't have that, you would not be human.
Yeah, completely agree.
Yeah. Last question.
Go for it.
What do you have coming up? Like, do you have any new program releases that you want to put out to the world? And is there anything basically you want to plug? Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that question. There's a number of things that I'm working on at the moment, from the women's coaching side of things and also to the men's, but it's going to be lagging behind a month or so, is making the coaching more accessible to more people. So basically changing the price point, bringing it down to, I think the price will probably end up being about $397 USD for essentially unlimited coaching. And it's going to be turning into a group coaching program, which will be like a membership type database, instead of one-on-one coaching, and instead of high ticket group coaching, just having access to all of the programs, access to support networks within that group. That's something that's going to be happening and going to be launching end of March for the women's side of things. The men's will be lagging a little bit behind. That might be more mid-year. And from the photography and all of that side of things, I'll be creating some new programs about branding yourself, being comfortable in front of the video camera, some Facebook marketing, and a bunch of other courses within that as well. So
yeah,
I'm looking forward to getting back to Bali, as I said, because I've got a lot of things that I want to tick off.
Yeah. And I do and I'm highly recommending this, because I'm not a female and I've never done any female coaching, although we have had some very good chats about things. But
that we have.
I have worked with Brett as a client for his photography, and he's exceptional at making you feel comfortable, and just his way of getting the angle of the shot, and, you know, letting you be you, and you know, and the photos just come out much better because you can be yourself, and I think that's really cool. So no worries, dude. Where can people find you? I know you've got a couple of Instagram handles, but
I do. Probably the one that links to everything else, which is my personal Instagram, which is I am Brett Williams. There's links to the photography. There's links to the Life with Options, at least the women's coaching.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably the best place to find me on my personal Instagram account. I am Brett Williams.
Yeah. Sweet. Any websites, or just basically can get to the websites through that Instagram?
Yeah, well, if it's the women's coaching, then it's lifewithoptions.net. The men's coaching is consciousbrothers.net, and the photography, videography is rpmarketing.co.
Sweet. No worries. Go and check that out, guys. And yeah, you'll be pleasantly, what's the word? I don't even know what the word I'm looking for. Your eyes will thank me. I don't know what I'm saying, so I'm just reeling off shit now.
Let's go with it.
All right, dude. Thank you very much for coming on the show.
Most welcome. It's a pleasure. Glad we got it to happen.
Yeah, that's it, man. We've been talking about it for a little while.
Yes.
All right, man. Thank you very much.
Cheers.